podcast.
Boom! What's up, people? Welcome to Creative Theory Podcast, a show that brings you conversations with visual artists about how they got to where they got, what their day-to-day is like, what their struggles are, their goals, thoughts on what's happening in the art world, and a lot more. Coming at you live from Vancouver, Canada, BC, on Save on Radio Network. We got a beast of a artist in the studio, and to be honest, I think the whole time I'm just going to be shaking my head and wondering how he even manages to do it. And if you don't believe me, I got this little description, so let's get through it. All right,
let's start.
So besides his being a visual artist, he's a television producer, writer, art director, designer, music composer, and performer with Humans and Gang Signs. He created a graphic novel called Once Our Land. He recently created a feature doc, Come Together. I'm getting it right?
Yeah.
And then even more recently, he had his directing debut with a dark comedy and horror called Deadshack.
That's right, yeah.
None of this makes sense. This is Peter Ricq. Thanks for getting on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And doing so much. How does your life even look like right now? I mean, this is quite a list.
It's actually pretty easy. I always do things like per chapter. So I have a couple months where I'd be doing maybe just visual art. And then for another month, I would just be writing. And then I'd just be working on my movie. When we shot the movie, that took about, I took a break from everything else. So I did the storyboards. Actually, I did some of the storyboards while I was at the studio recording part of the new Humans album. And there's a lot of downtime, so it's good to bring things with you so you can work on, instead of just waiting around and getting drunk or just like not knowing what to do, you just bring work that you can work all the time on. So once the storyboards were done, there was a lot of production meetings and then shooting. And then when the shooting's done, I was doing the score for the movie and editing. And then when that was done, I went back to working on Once Our Land 2, the sequel.
You're making it sound very easy.
But it is, because it's not like I'm doing an hour of the comic a day and then an hour of writing music. It's like, it's always like, this month I'm going to be doing this. So it doesn't feel like it's overbearing and stressful. So in your brain, you're actually able to forget about one while you're focused on the other? Yeah, so, and also doing that, I take breaks and I'd listen to a podcast or read some comic books or watch movies, and it gave me ideas of what I'm going to do when I'm going to tap back into like writing music. I took a break from Gang Signs writing music for about 2 years, and then there was a summer where all my friends were listening to a lot of trap, and that's what we would listen to all the time on weekends. And it just gave me ideas for the new songs I was going to do. Like, I'm not making trap music, but it was nice to hear something that I'm not that familiar with, and it makes me try out new things. So,
but you're not obsessing about one while doing the other. That's
no,
something I
not
feel
necessarily.
Like I do.
Yeah.
So it's like you allow yourself to forget everything else, but this one craft.
Yeah. I think you have to really focus on what you're doing. But drawing is differently. Like, also it's different. Also painting is different because you can. It's sometimes rendering takes forever, and the line work takes forever, and so you can watch a movie or you can think about things and you can think about the story. With music, it's a bit different because it needs your full attention, and you can't listen to other things while you're doing it. Same with editing; it's really hard if you're editing a movie or a video. There's some stuff that it's actually way more draining out of you, but I think painting, drawing, is just really easy.
Okay, and I guess, have you been doing a lot of that, or are you not doing it because it's easy? I mean, I guess you've been drawing a lot lately, right?
Yeah, I've been drawing a lot. Like finishing that comic book, it's 110 pages, so it's way bigger.
No, you're doing a lot of the easy stuff as well, along with the hard stuff.
But the coloring takes a long time, and I actually stopped painting and illustrating because I'm not making any money with it. So I kind of quit.
Really? Is that?
Yeah.
And that's just the main factor.
Yeah, and I like telling stories, which is my big love is telling stories, inventing new worlds. And so just doing comic books, I made more money selling my comic book, and I got paid. I didn't get paid really well on the movie because I deferred all my payment. But if I would have kept it,
what does that mean? Sorry, say it again.
Well, instead of let's say you're getting paid $30,000 to make a movie, and then they're telling you that you can't shoot for this day or you can't have this makeup on then. They're like, well, what can we do? It's like, well, we don't have the budget. It's like, okay, well, how about you don't pay me? And it's like, okay, we can add that day.
Strong. You got a passion and just go with it.
And for me, it was like a calling card to what I can do. So I was just trying to do the best I can do with what I have. And I had been saving up money a lot for the last, 8 years.
Just for that, just for making Deadshack, or was it just in general?
Just for my creative endeavors, like I don't know, like for the comic book too. Like I saved up a lot of money because I haven't had a real job in 8 years.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. I know we're rushing, I feel like, through a lot of things. We just went through everything. I'll definitely want to slow it down just because.
Okay.
Once again, I think you're just did this and this, and you make not only you kind of shorten the time frame of what it actually took and how you got there, but yeah, it's really impressive. By the way, I was actually wondering as I was getting here, how do you introduce yourself to people? I mean, doing so many things.
I just say, hey, I'm Peter Ricq,
and you.
And if they ask what I'm doing, I say I'm an artist. And lately, I say I'm a film director because that's what I really want to do.
Okay.
In the end, like I don't see myself being a musician when I'm 50 and touring, doing like a city a night, and partying. It's really hard not to party when you're touring. So like I can see myself being a film director and working really hard for those like month of shooting or 2 months of shooting. Hopefully we can get a month or 2 months on the next movie. Just way more realistic, especially with like as we're getting older. So that
So you're planning ahead quite far.
Yeah. So I'm introducing myself as what I really want to be.
Film director sounds very cool. No, actually, can say it. That's awesome. And I guess I looked at your short film as I was, but actually I've seen it years ago, and then I rewatched it again as I was getting ready for this. The one you made in school.
Which one? There's a couple.
There's a couple. See, I don't even. Almost like Matrix, almost.
Yeah, Glitch.
Glitch. There you go. So, that was your student film, right?
That was my graduate student film. Yeah.
Crazy. So, but even at that moment, it was already on such a high level. How did that even happen? I mean, for a student film, it looked real cool, and it seemed like the fact that you wrote it, right, and animated, executed, designed. Yeah,
it's a 10-minute film that I animated.
10 minutes.
Yeah, did the score, did the sound. I do some of the acting of the main guy and the robots, and my girlfriend at the time did the girl. It's I don't know if that movie is I think it's a miss because it went to Annecy, the biggest animation film festival in the world, and I was really, really nice experience. But a lot of people don't understand the movie, and even when the judges who I met at Annecy who decided what movies student films come in, he's like, what movie did you do? I said Glitch. He's like, yeah, you should have spent more time explaining your story in the movie. What? Like everybody's like, oh, what movie did you do? It's like, oh, that's great. And then Peter, what did you do? It's like Glitch. He's like, yeah. So I don't know. I think some people like it. My dad didn't understand the story. A lot of people didn't understand the story. And one of my friend who it was inspired by Philip K. Dick stories, and my friend who read a lot of Philip K. Dick, he understood the whole story. He's like, this is what happens. Like, really, you understand? And then he told me everything. It's like, okay, maybe I wasn't that far off. You just gotta think about it a little bit more.
Do you think it's because a lot of the other films were, well, I don't know, I haven't seen them, but do you think they were spoon-feeding the audience in a sense rather than like getting someone to think?
Yeah, maybe. I can't talk for because to me it makes so much it makes so much sense because I was working on it for so long, and everything was thought out. But yeah, I remember like other scripts I had written in school that I think could have done a more successful student graduate film. Like the first part of Once Our Land, my friend told me I should have done that while I was in university. And then I had written a script where this guy, his godfather is death. And since there's death, there's like Cupid and all that stuff. And it was just like a really funny like comedy, but it went really dark in the end. It was really like captivating and sad. And my teacher had said, why didn't you make that movie? Like that script was so good. And now I regret, like, maybe I should have done that, because nothing ever came out of Glitch, like nothing at all.
You mean no new no opportunities came from it?
Yeah, no opportunities. I even wrote a Bible to make that into 10 episodes of different characters who fall into the Glitch world.
Yeah.
And I was hoping, people would be excited to do it, and it just never went anywhere. And Teletoon wrote me an email that a letter saying they were not interested. So at least they read it, but yeah. I
guess the fact that you got a reply, but to me, or from my standpoint, when I was looking at it, the reason why I bring it up is your skill level. To me, it was like a proof of concept that you can complete something and write and design. So I don't see. I mean, I guess once again, your sights are so high up, even from the beginning, that I guess you see it not a success.
Nothing came from Glitch. Like when I sold a TV show when I was in Montreal, and they hired me as an art director, and I showed them Glitch, and the producer, the CEO of the company, he's like, yeah, there's some nice transitions, but it's a little weird. So no one really liked it.
I mean, it's just dark, I guess. But
yeah, people just didn't get it. I'm glad you like it.
No, I like it. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. But I'm working on doing my comic book as a feature film, and I want it to be rendered like my Glitch film, which is a 2.5D movie. So it's like a 2D movie film with a 3D camera in a 3-dimensional world. And there's no 2D movies that actually have done that. When I did in 2007, I thought, everyone's going to do that. And we're in 2018.
And when you mean, because I've seen some, I guess, cartoons you could say, but I mean, the 3D cameras are not everywhere. They're not at every shot.
They're not every shot.
I can see it. And is that what you're saying is every shot is 3D?
Mine is like in every shot. I think the only one that, a movie that did use it a lot was the beginning of Kung Fu Panda 1. I think that they probably did something very similar. And it looked fantastic.
Are you?
I wish that movie was all like
all
that.
2D. Yeah. Are you a really good student of the cinema, of the films?
If I'm a good student, I don't know. There's always somebody better.
Are you always very conscious, aware of paying attention to everything that's coming out?
I try to watch a movie a day or even more, and I'm so behind even after all these years. Like I know a lot of about film compared to a normal person, but when I meet a real cinephile or listen to somebody talk who's a real cinephile, I know nothing.
Oh, but that's because you make stuff. You're busy making things.
Yeah.
But once again, sorry, to go back to that short film, I know the question doesn't make sense. How was it so good from the start? You know what I mean? But did you do animation before school? Actually, where did you study? Was it Vancouver or Montreal?
It was Montreal, yeah.
Montreal. What was the school?
Concordia University.
Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
It was great. When my parents said you have to go to university, and I don't know what I want to study.
So at that point, were you doing art?
Yeah, I was doing comic books. I went to a comic book school, and I went to fine arts school at Dawson College. And then my friend said, I'm going to animation school. I was like, what? You can go to animation for university? And they'll give you a degree. And so my parents were just happy that I found something that I wanted to do. And I always wanted to be a director. And I was doing comic books because comic books was a cheap way to learn how to direct. And then animation was actually the next step because you're learning camera lenses and movement and acting. And as an animator, you actually do all of those things. So for me, it was like, okay, that's pretty easy to get into. And I got denied twice in a row.
Really?
And yeah, and then I met the dean, and I said, I got denied. I don't understand. Like, I'm better. My friend who got in the program, I'm actually better than him. And he's saying that all the students in the school are not they haven't developed their skills yet. And I've done a lot of the work. he said, okay, fine, can you send me a sketchbook? Like, do you have one with you right now? I was like, no. I was like, can you go home and get it? I was like, well, I live really far. So I went home, bought a new sketchbook because all my old ones were like, I'd gotten better. So I spent like 3 days just sketching everything. And then
homework?
Yeah, just gave it to him. And then he said it was very good. And then I was on the waiting list. And he said, if once you get in, everyone that we've accepted are way more talented than you are. I was like, holy shit, this is going to be the best school ever. I'm going to be finally surrounded by artists that I really like.
That's what you want.
And then the first day of school, I was so excited. And most people, to my astonishment, I was very saddened by the fact that no one knew how to draw.
So how were they good? Were they good? Like
I don't know. I don't understand. Because no one knew film, no one knew acting. Some people had never drawn before in their lives, and they say, "Peter, you're a god." It's like, it's like, what are you talking about? It's like you can draw like a god, like because, like I'm an all right illustrator, but to them, I was so good because they had never drawn before.
So weird. And that was an animation program. What was it?
Yeah, that was animation. That was film animation at Concordia University.
Because I can see how if it was like a painting program or something, and they. Yeah. Could throw around some paint for an abstract painting. Yeah, it was really frustrating. Yeah. Weird. So then, I guess looking back, and because especially these days for animation programs, schools are quite a big deal and quite an expensive deal. And
is it? Can't you just go to? You can go to Concordia. It's still cheap. It's really cheap. Yeah. Especially if you're from Quebec. Yeah. Okay. If you're outside of Quebec, I think it's more expensive, and if you're outside of Canada. Was it worth it? Yeah, I had probably the best year group because a lot of the people in my class ended up being filmmakers. They say it was an anomaly because it's never happened since or before. Wow. But yeah, I was surrounded by some people who had never drawn before, but were really, really smart and have ended up making really great films. Some other ones who were more illustrators and not filmmakers, and a lot of my friends are working at Ubisoft or Eidos and all those things. The one girl, Chin, she just finished a book, and she worked on the last animated feature by the Prince and the Prague, the 2D animated. Like she worked on the last Disney movie. Oh wow. I don't know. But what's really good is that they have all the program. Yeah. And the teachers, some of our teachers were Oscar nominated winner or not nominated. So we had some. Big one. Yeah, and they were friends. All their friends were older animators who were also nominated. So I had my first teacher. She brought in maybe 5 filmmakers who were all Oscar nominated or winners. Damn. So you're just in a really, really good group. Yeah, it was really good for that. Yeah.
Is this a lesson? They all sucked at the beginning, but no, they're really good.
Yeah. Well, so most of them that sucked just ended up sucking, but their passion, they didn't have the passion. Yeah. 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 Some of them had the passion, but they weren't very good. There's one kid. We always make fun of him. I'm not going to mention his name. Okay. But he's so bad. And then I figured, like, maybe I should talk to him. I want to see what his deal is. And I was talking to him about illustrating and how maybe his illustration would be better if he did more studies. He's like, no, I don't need to do that because when I draw realistic, it's hyper real. It's so real. It looks fucking amazing. I was like, really? I really would love to see those drawings. And he brought them to me one day, and they were not good at all.
There's something in the water, and that's cool.
It was kind of, remember Napoleon Dynamite when he draws and the rendering of like the shadow, and it looks like a mustache? That's kind of what all his illustrations that were super real.
Maybe it's just how he saw the world. Imagine in his mind, everything, that's how the world looks like. Yeah. Something you touched on, I think you've told me this before, actually it may have been at your movie screening, you were saying how you did all these things, like you're saying, comic books, storyboarding, animation, to then and music and composing, to one day end up in this position, which you are now to be able to direct. Was that, so you said from the young age you wanted to be a director, and then when did you figure out that that's the path for you and that you needed to do that?
I don't know. When I went to comic book school, my teacher, he wanted to be a director, Jose, and he was doing a lot of storyboards, so maybe I got that from him. And he was saying that if you're a comic book artist, it's basically directing. And before I met him, I think I just wanted to be a comic book artist because I just liked illustrating and telling stories, and I figured that's something that I could do for the rest of my life. And then after doing a couple pages, I just like, I'm not cut out for this. Like, it's too much work.
That was your first thought?
Yeah, and I wanted to do it, but then I didn't because I was like, I didn't want to get pigeonholed as a comic book artist, and I find that's what happens in the industry a lot. It's like, oh, you're a storyboard artist, you're going to be a storyboard artist for the rest of your life. And I just trying to get into like film, and so he even told me, he's like, Peter, I've met a lot of talented people, and you're talented, and that's why you're not going to be successful.
What's up with all the people surrounding you? Maybe,
I don't know.
Do you think that gave you fuel? That's such a weird thing to say. You're talented, that's why you're not going to be successful.
Well, because I know exactly what he's talking about. From the comic book school, everyone that went there, a lot of them who had a lot of talent and had an ease to illustrating, they just ended up just partying or just finding something else that they loved, starting a band.
So, which you did.
Yeah.
Doing all the things you're not supposed to. Yeah, and somehow still happened. Well, that's cool that you're now what you want it to be. When you
I have a really good schedule, though. Like, I can party and I can get to work.
Is that your trick, the key to success?
Yeah, you got to party and work.
Work hard, yeah.
But I used to not get hangovers because I used to drink so much.
That's not how it works, I don't think.
But now that I don't drink as much, I get hangovers, so it's actually harder. So if you want to party and work a lot, you got to do both of them every day.
You got to party a lot.
Yeah.
Your body gets used to all alcohol.
Yeah, you don't get hangovers.
You're just drunk all the time.
Yeah, and now that I drink once a week or twice a week, and now I'm hungover for the whole next day, and I can't really work on anything, so I've lost a whole day.
So this is what you're telling me, because sometimes I feel like that too. I need to drink more.
Yeah, you need to drink more.
And then I'll get more work done. Crazy. Okay. Oh my God. There's so much. There's so much to talk about. You said when you were in Montreal, that's when you sold your first cartoon, your show, that first idea.
Yeah, the League of Super Evil. It was actually my friend's graduate film that I had done the score for, and he knew I was a really serious filmmaker, like that I was a good illustrator and I wanted to make movies, and so he asked me if I wanted to work on it with him to sell his graduate film as a TV show, and so we worked on a Bible together. A Bible is it's basically like a 20-page document that explains the whole show. And I figured, I'm going to work on that with him, learn from it, and then do my own thing, like the following year when I'm done school. And we sold it the first. We sold it. We went to Ottawa and we sold it right away. It was
crazy.
Yeah, Phil and Dav, Phil Ivanusik and Davila LeBlanc, who I've been working with since. They went to Ottawa and they really prepared themselves. That's the Ottawa Animation Film Festival. It used to be big back in the day. A lot of studios would go and seek out talent and buy TV shows or meet with creators. And they practice for like 3 days. They pitch it to like all their friends and their family. And it's like, okay, how was that pitch? Because it's like a speed dating in 5 minutes with every producer. And and then we had 2 companies, one in Montreal that was interested and one in Vancouver. And the one in Vancouver was just a better studio. And I can see the potential of working with them being better, even though we'd have less control. The one in Montreal, they would give us more control, but I've had a feeling that just seeing from their work, it wouldn't look as great. It was very limited animation.
The guys that are pitching for you, were they related to the project?
Yeah, they were the other creators. Yeah.
So how many were you?
We were 3.
3. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you did the art, but you didn't.
I did the art, and I looked over some of the stories, gave ideas, I did some storyboards. I put the whole package spiral together, and then they wrote the script and wrote the descriptions, and I gave some feedback. Well, what's that?
I do
It was like
not know.
someone's getting zapped.
Yeah, someone's getting zapped by phone. Hopefully, we'll figure this out.
Yeah, and then it took about 3 years for them, or 2 years for them to say, okay, this is happening. YTV is interested. We're going to fly you guys down here. And then since then, we had started doing other properties that we want to sell. And then they saw how I was versatile. I could do like really cartoony stuff, and then super like Marvel muscular stuff, and ghouls and like different stuff, like realistic. And so they said, we're going to fly you in and make you art director as soon as possible.
And this is the studio that you sold the project to?
Yeah,
Or
Nerdcore.
Nerdcore, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Vancouver.
Did it actually take 3 years between the sale of
Yeah, I
the...
think so.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow, that's...
yeah. And then I was working on, as a junior designer on Stormhawks. Learned a lot from that.
Was it before, while it was being...
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
kinda, what's the
while we're waiting. So I moved
okay.
in 2007. I moved to Vancouver for a year and a half. I was working as a junior designer on Stormhawks, and then they said, okay, it's greenlit the show. You can start working as a the lead designer on your own show. I was like, well, you said I was going to be art director.
Bastards.
And then it's like, yeah, but you're not an art director. It's like, but I'm doing all the work. It's like, yeah, but you're not an art director. You don't have the skill set. I was like, but you are giving me the set of all this, like all the skills that an art director would do. He's like, okay, look, if you really want it, you can have it, but you're not an art director. I was like, well, I really want it. He's like, yeah, but you're not an art director. You like, if you really want it, I'll give it to you. It's not a problem. It's like, I want it. It's like, all right, fine.
Who was it? Can you say the name, or who were you talking to?
It was Asaf Fipke.
Okay, so he was the owner of
the lead, the main man. And, you know, I totally understand exactly. I was just really pushy. I knew.
We're getting zapped, people.
Yeah.
I don't know what zapping is, but something around here.
So then I became art director on that show. And then they got me to be art director for upcoming projects. And then after League season 3 got greenlit, and then they wanted me on Rated A for Awesome.
Did you create that once? Because actually, so you didn't?
No, I didn't do Rated
No?
A for Awesome. I just was art director.
Okay, because this is I don't know if I met you, but I started. So with me, I started animating. That was the first show I animated on. Was Rated A for Awesome.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, but I don't know if you're.
Was I gone already by that time?
I don't know. When did you leave? Do you remember? Because I started it. I think it was 2011. I think that's when I started animating in that show. And I
must have. I think I left in 2011.
Okay.
Once I was done Rated A, I gave him an 8 months notice because they were.
Wow, nice.
They were green.
So kind.
Yeah, they were greenlighting my shows. They weren't. They bought my shows and then told me I couldn't sell my shows to anybody else, and if I quit Nerdcore, I can't work anywhere else for a year.
Wow. Really?
That
doesn't sound nice.
No, it wasn't. So I just I decided to just focus on music and then see where that takes me. Yeah.
Man, I think we skipped through a bunch of those steps there too, but it's very interesting. So, I just want to, because this is such an interesting path. I don't know any. Do you know anyone who did what you did in that, like, sold a show, worked in a show, got an art director position at the studio? I mean, it seems so.
No, I'm always trying to find creators, but there's not a lot of us.
Are they hard to find?
Yeah, they are very hard to find. And I have some friends who could do that, but they I think they doubt their talent, or they just think it's unattainable.
That's actually another thing, is that, yeah, like, I think it's a constant conversation that artists do doubt themselves a lot, and then, I mean, you just have a choice to go with it or not.
For me, the easiest way for me to be like, oh, I can write, or oh, I can art direct, or I can do that, is reading scripts from writers who are getting paid, and it's garbage. Seeing designers or art directors who are getting a really good salary, and not liking their work. I'm sure some people like their work, but I personally don't. Like, I can totally do this. And seeing films who are doing somewhat well or getting huge budgets, and you look at it and this is like, the script is garbage, the directing is garbage, the effects are crap, like they're not even hitting like the beats properly. So I think watching really or reading bad things, it gives you l'espoir, it gives you
some confidence or something.
Some confidence of, is that me?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I wonder if it's one of these chords. So what you're telling is that all artists should just stop looking at all the best artists, but just look at the
look at the best for inspiration, and look at the worst
and people who get paid.
I guess you're also inspired. I was like, wow, that guy's so bad. I'm inspired to do better because I know I can do better. But it's good to look at things that are bad and know why they're bad, and then look at things that are really great. Like, I think Blade Runner 2049 is one of the best movies ever made. And looking at that and seeing it, like, why is it so good?
Did you love all the music?
Yeah, it's great. And I tried to listen to the score after when I got home, and I can't listen to the score. It works so good in the movie.
Yeah.
In the movie, it's just perfect. And when you listen at home, it's like, I'm so bored.
I can see why, but maybe it makes sense that something that's so specifically crafted for, this one scene or the project.
Yeah.
Maybe it makes sense that you can't separate them. Like, I don't know. It's like
what I did for the score of Deadshack, because it's coming out tomorrow, February 16th on Lakeshore Records.
Go get it.
And go get it. And I added beats to every score, so you can actually listen to it.
Oh,
and
so
it's
you
more like a
adjusted it
song.
Nice.
So they're all edits. Maybe 75% of them are edits.
You're welcome, everyone. Is that the only reason why you edit the beats after that experience of watching the?
No, because I did that in a year ago. The score was done a year ago. So
already with beats.
Yeah, and I did it while I was in Korea. I went for a trip to Korea, and my homework in Korea was to shoot a music video for Gang Signs and do those edits to that score.
So there's no such thing as real vacation from art.
Yeah, well, it's because I was drinking, so I needed to work at the end of the day, and I was drinking every day.
Yeah, because drinking means lots of hard work.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people, that's why you get work done. I think that maybe that's the lesson here.
Yeah.
It's like you said, I imagine for a lot of people drinking means, you're not working for a while.
Yeah, and also, it's drinking and networking is also really important. Yeah, that's true. So we skipped a huge couple. We skipped 10 years right there.
Yeah, totally. No, it's all good. We got to take the conversation where it's going. So I guess you made the move from Montreal. You're still in Vancouver, which is cool, but I haven't been to Montreal. Hopefully one day I'll go.
It's great. Go in the summer.
Yeah. But so what I hear is that the art culture is so vibrant here. Yet here you are in Vancouver. Is there reasons why?
Well, when I was in Montreal, nobody was buying my artwork, and nobody was listening to my music.
Screw those people.
Yeah. And when I moved here, before 2008, like, everyone was buying my artwork, and my friends were supporting my music. After the crash, it was really hard to sell, because I used to sell out all my paintings.
Oh wow!
And then and I've gotten way better throughout the years, but now it's really hard. But people started listening to my music, and I was making money through music. Because I remember in Montreal, some of my friends were telling me, "Hey Peter, you're a really good illustrator. Your music is not that good."
Everyone tells you that you're not good. What is this? This is the pattern.
And then over here, it was the opposite. People knew me more as a musician, so it was an interesting change. Like my friends who were painter friends in Vancouver didn't even know I was a musician, and vice versa. So. And
this is all happening while you're working full time as well.
This is while I was working full time. So I wanted to quit and focus on art and directing music videos. So my reasoning for directing music videos was to get into live action and stop animation, so I can direct a film eventually.
Nice. So the vision is already at that point.
Yeah, it was already. Yeah, I already had a trajectory.
But yet you're still spending time on art, like painting and music.
Yeah, I was trying to do a show a year still.
That's crazy.
And
you didn't see that taking away from your path to become a director?
No. I thought it might help, and that who's getting zapped?
I don't know. I think it's you. I don't know if we gotta move these things. Sorry, I don't wonder if you can hear it on the mic or not. But I don't know
if you guys don't hear it, you're probably wondering like, what
you're gonna think
are
we're
they
crazy.
talking about?
Peter's zapping everyone with his electricity.
What was I gonna say?
You're talking about painting and pursuing directing. I'm not saying that one takes away, but it's just
so
once again, there's only so much time in a day. And
then so the painting is good because when I do the Bible for the film, I can do a sick like Star Wars type cover on. So it's like when people grab the book, they're like, "Oh, this movie is it done? Like looks real," you know?
Yeah.
And then with the illustrations as well, like designing the world, designing the costumes, showing how we should be building things. Once I did a music video concept, and I did the whole design of this monster in it, and I sent it because I want to get the monster built. And the guy he's a friend of mine. It's like I work in film. I could send it to the guys who do the monster designs and they said they couldn't do it, but the design was really well thought out, and they could build it if they had the time and if it wasn't going to cost like $20,000. But it said, this is like really well developed and better than most of the shit I get. So it's good to have all those skills.
Once again, and then that's the confidence coming in again.
Yeah, and the guy, our distributor from XYZ, Todd Brown, he was a fan of the League of Super Evil and Humans, and I think that helped us getting XYZ as a distributor for Deadshack.
Yeah. So all the steps and all the connections. You knew it was going to happen. Yeah. The path was already laid out. That's crazy. I'm trying to remember the first show that I've seen by you, because when I got into this, I guess when I saw the Vancouver art scene, it was Aiden Gallery, and I don't know how many. I mean, that's a silly question. I don't know how many shows you did, and you probably don't remember either.
Yeah, there's a bunch at Aiden. For like 2 years, consecutive years, I was the robot and monster curator.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, those were big, and then I think I just didn't want to do robots and monsters anymore. Like the thing, I always try and do different styles and try out new things, and I think every artist should do that.
Yeah. That's what I like about you and the versatility, because usually you kind of see the opposite online. The people who figure it out what works, they pretty much stick with it.
I find they get more popular on Instagram. They get a better following, but their skill set it plateaus. Yeah.
But
like you're really good. Like seeing your new illustrations, like now you're warping. You're really you're using watercolor a lot. Yeah, those are fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
It means a lot coming from you. But what I was thinking is that whenever you switch, of course your skill slightly drops down because you got to pursue this different avenue. I guess what I usually can't exactly.
I don't know. I don't think they do drop down because it's such a different skill set, and it's kind of hard to be like, well, that's worse or that's better. Because when I started doing pointillism, I think some of them were better than the paintings or the illustrations.
That stuff is cool. I like how minimalistic you went with it too, and that was really awesome. Yeah, one thing I can't wrap around in my head is when, and maybe that's because I don't know myself as well. Clearly, I think you knew what you were doing. Is when I switch these things and I want to try doing all these mediums and styles. Is that I guess I don't know where it's going. Where it feels like every time you touch something, you already there was a vision for where it ends up. At least from the outside, it's like, there's going to be an art show. Here's going to be an album. Here's going to be a movie. Like you were saying, just like Once Our Land, you wrote that. I mean, years and years before you made that into a comic book, right?
No, I wrote the first part of Once Our Land and illustrated when I was 17, 18.
Wait, what? And so the comic book, the first one that came out, that's not the first one?
The first part of that comic. So the first chapter in the book, I did that when I was 17.
Seriously?
18. And then...
See, that's what I'm talking about. You already knew.
And then I colored it. There's a French publication in Montreal who said, can you send us anything that you have? Like we heard that you have some comic books. So I sent them something that I thought was better. And they say it's too gory. This is way too adult. So then I was like, well, I got this little shitty comic I did. It's 17 pages, and then they said we love it. It was The Gift, which is Once Our Land, chapter 1, and we want you to color it, and we want you to write 40 more pages and illustrate and have everything completed, and you're gonna get. I was like, well, what do I get out of it? That seems like a lot of work. It's like, we'll give you $2,000 advance, and you get $1 per book sold. And I was like, what about the royalties? Like, what if I sell it as a TV show, because that's what I do for a living? And they said, yeah, you get 10%. I was like, what?
What?
I usually get, with my partners, we get 30% each, or like with something way better than 10%. It's like, oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, yeah, because you do that for a living. Okay, if you sell it before we sell it, you get 30%. If we sell it, you get 10%. And then after that, I was just like, fuck those guys.
Jeez. Is there a lot of those people out there like that? You think artists are ripped off left and right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
That's
and
a scary side.
Yeah, so then I Sonny Shaw was, he said he wanted to work with me. Hey, Sonny. And I was like, well, do you want to read the script? I have to do 40 pages, and I'm going to do the designs with you, and then I'm going to do the page layouts with you, and then you illustrate it. And he was so down. And I think after that, he underestimated how much work it is.
Yeah.
And so he did quite a bit of work, and after I just had to finish it, and then because I love his work, and I think he's a very talented guy and super fun. I offered him, do you want to do Once Our Land 2? And I knew he was going to say no.
He politely declined.
I just thought, it's like, maybe he would do it. Like, maybe this time he'd be actually good. And I said I'd have a bigger budget. But he declined. And then that's how I found Jake Bilbio from the Philippines. I know I'm fast forwarding a lot.
No, it's but a lot of things are happening.
Yeah, Once Our Land 2 is I do all the page layouts, and then I send it and the designs, and I send it to Jake in the Philippines, and then he gives me one pass, sketch pass, and then I do notes on it, send it back to him. Then he does the finished ink pass, and then I do notes on it, and then he does a correction, and then I just correct anything I want after that.
Did you do the designs, or did he?
I did most of the designs. He did a couple designs.
So you're now Mike Mignola?
Yeah, that's what I would love to do. I would rather do that.
Right, than draw.
It's just too time consuming.
But I'm sad. I'm still sad about the fact that you said you're not doing any more illustration or painting. Good.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
until somebody pays me.
Yeah. And so, in the end, it's all about making a living. Unfortunately.
And I'd like to do more murals, even though they take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I really like the mural I did for Mural Fest Vancouver, and I submitted to Montreal Mural Fest, and no replies. It's just I don't understand the politics from it. Because you're doing a lot of murals, right?
I'm actually trying to find some walls for this year as well.
Okay. And are you going outside of town to do it too?
The one I did one residency, but that was in Italy. I was completely random application. But I mean, honestly, I haven't done. Okay. I've mostly done in Vancouver, so
and you do that on your own time too, right?
Yeah, so that usually. But the first couple, and of course it makes sense. I didn't even get paid for it, but I just wanted a wall.
Yeah, I remember when I saw you on the street, it's near my house. I was like, and you were telling me you were just doing it to learn. To
learn and to have fun, like you're saying. But actually, speaking of murals, this year I tried. So the city of Vancouver gives out a bunch of public art grants or some grants, but you have to do it in collaboration with a nonprofit organization to get the money. And then I tried a couple of times applying through some companies, but it's
so much time.
Pain. Yeah, it's such a pain. And at the end, I applied a couple, and at the end, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it for myself.
Applying, I find applying it is so much work that you could have done a whole painting.
Exactly, and that's why it's so frustrating, which makes me almost not want to pursue those avenues. You know what I mean? And hopefully, I don't know, someone comes to you one day or something.
Yeah.
Actually, do a lot of people I see. It's crazy that they didn't pick you for the Mural Fest. But do a lot of people approach you these days for everything?
No.
Really?
Nothing.
That doesn't make sense. Actually, and then I know we're going to get to Deadshack. I want to talk about it a little bit more. But after you made that film, and it sounds like I follow your page and the movie page, and the reviews been pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Are people hitting you
Not
up?
really. I have a big agent in LA, really, really big for directors.
Nice.
He liked the movie, and he's like, would you be interested to do a $10 million horror movie in Los Angeles and then move on from there? And some of his clients, I'm not going to name who, but they're making like $100 million movies.
Wow.
And it's been a while that I haven't heard back from him, and then I sent him an email, and he's been really sick.
Oh.
But before he was sick, like, we had a call, and it was really good. We talked for like half an hour, and then I sent him a bunch of stuff that I was working on. And then the Scout Comics, who distributed my comic book in the States, he's a producer as well. He works in film, and one of his friends has a studio, and they have a lot of money, and they're interested in Once Our Land. And I've just finished writing. I did the story of a script for Once Our Land as a feature, and so I told him that we already have the script, and he's like, "Well, maybe they'll just like give you money to make the movie." And yeah, so like things are starting to happen, but it's just like just talk, like nothing's concrete. And
so the annoying part is happening right now, just getting there.
So now I'm just trying to finish Once Our Land 2. Start. I've had an idea for a comic book for like 6 years, and I was going to do it at the same time as Once Our Land 2, but it was just too much work that I just decided to focus on Once Our Land 2, and when that's done, do that other comic. And I'm working on Once Our Land 2. It's just way too much detail. So the next one is going to be drawn a bit more like Sin City, like very limited color palette.
Yeah, nice.
Because I'm reading a lot of comic books now as I'm finishing, just to like know the world of comics a bit more, like which artists are good. I'm listening to a podcast called it's a comic book podcast.
You're doing your homework.
Yeah, what is it? Sketch.
Okay.
So SKTCH, and listening to all these independent comic book artists and how they do it, and looking at their work, and I was like, wow, you really don't need to put that much detail. And
so you're just looking at the art, and you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be that. Yeah.
And and it's always a story that's captivating. If you read Patience by, is it Daniel Lewis? The guy who did Ghost World, his comic Patience it's one of the best comics I've read in a long time.
Okay.
And the drawings are just so simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
But simple and tasteful?
I'm not a huge fan, but I know some people love it. I just think he's a really good storyteller.
But so that's what I was going to say in your case, because your goal is not just the art, your goal is the storytelling, like you said.
Yeah,
from the
I want to
beginning.
be like, I would love to be able to do something like Mike Mignola, where the art is fantastic and simple, but I'm not that good. I just hate Mike Mignola's stories.
Really?
I love every panel, and I love the designs. And it's to me, like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be like, you're an idiot, but I find his stories are so boring. I
wonder if that's the charm. I wonder it's almost like slice of life in Hellboy's life.
Slice of life in Hellboy's life.
I didn't mean to rhyme that. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't. This is a tangent, but as far as Hellboy goes, but
my goal is to be as good of an illustrator as Mike Mignola, and I don't know if he's fast, but it looks like he could be fast.
But also, he hasn't been drawing in a while.
Yeah,
I think,
and that's the thing, because now he's just writing.
Yeah.
That's like the worst part of. To me, it's like the worst part of Mike Mignola. It's like, no, you should just draw.
You make him go back, draw. Yeah. But Duncan Fegredo, I don't know if you saw his art, who picked up Hellboy later on. The story one was really good too.
Really,
he was able to
mimic,
and then even build on it. So that was
there's a comic book artist that Mike Mignola really liked, and I think they did a book called Faith, and it's about medieval times, about these people are trying to search for the Holy Grail, and then there's like aliens that they're fighting aliens at the same time.
Okay.
And the guy who wrote it, he did a lot of research and is taking real characters of historical characters, and he mixed that whole alien thing with it, and he's like, well, which who do you want to illustrate it? He's like, I don't know. And then he found some guy, like Mike Minola says, this artist is the best new artist. Like, how about that guy? And then, so I think it's called Faith. It's probably not called Faith. Maybe Invaders. I don't know.
That's something I got to look up.
Yeah. If you listen to that podcast, you'll find it.
I'll get on
sketch.
it. There's just once again so many things to listen to,
Yeah.
so many things to figure out. Okay, I think we we just went off, but we were talking about pursuing all these different styles, and like you were saying, switching it up and trying different things.
Yeah.
You see that being very beneficial.
Oh yeah. Not if you want to do one thing really well and be famous for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a director, I think it's really good.
As you're doing all these things, and actually, how's your how do you approach social media with the music success and the movies and the shows?
I'm really bad at social media.
Do you care, or do you want to be good?
I would love to. It's just too much work. Yeah, because like most of my days I spend, doing a little bit of humans work, maybe a little bit of gang signs work.
And what does that mean? Promotion? Or
promotion stuff.
Okay.
We need some stems bounced. I'm bouncing some stems, sending stuff to get mastered, writing a little thing over here, working on the music videos because I do all the music videos, and those take a lot of time.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Especially. Yeah.
And then with all the time I have left, I work on my comic book, and then I exercise like an hour a day, and I'm trying to eat healthy and just organic stuff. So that takes a lot of time.
Nice. Yeah, definitely. Trying to do everything right.
Yeah, and then spend time with a girlfriend. Usually at those last parts we do together. So that's
the
good.
whole life is very segmented.
Yeah, so but before when I was single and I was drinking, I would just wake up at 8:30, work from 9, and I'd usually eat one or a meal and a half a day, and I would just work. I'd be a robot until 10 p.m.
Wow.
And then work out every 3 times a week, so not all the time, and then I would just go out and drink till 1 or 2:30 or 3. And then do the whole thing again and wake up at 8:30 and I had no hangovers.
So you are a robot.
Yeah.
And then did you take weekends, or weekends are for making?
No weekends off. Yeah. I would do that every day. Yeah.
I guess more and more starting to make sense, because it's crazy. I mean, the amount of work that you're able to achieve and all this different or create and all this
I would
avenues.
hardly eat and hardly drink too. I don't drink a lot of water, and I wouldn't eat very much.
You heard it here, kids. No, you don't drink.
I drink a lot of beers.
Sorry, you're talking about your everyday life, and actually I want to ask about that. So as you're saying, you're gonna get on, start working on these. You're planning for the Once Our Land 2. Does that mean the way you segment it in your brain is like, okay, next 2-3 months or whatever that is, that's only that, and you're not gonna work on music, you're not gonna work on film, or are you still writing scripts at the same time?
I'm working on a couple scripts, like one of them on my grandmother, who's apparently about to pass away in the next couple of days. But she has a beautiful life, and it's kind of like a horror movie at parts, and it's really sad and yet still very beautiful. And I got my cousin to interview her and my whole family in the last 2 months, so we have everything written down. So I'm working on that. I'm working on one of my best friends, Cole Taylor. He has a really interesting story that I'm working on, but he's going to school now, so he doesn't have that much time to work on it. He got a vampire script that I worked on with Zlatina, who's local. She's a very funny girl, she's aspiring director. So we worked on that together. And now Phil, who I usually work with, he hated the script, and then we changed a lot of stuff. And then he's like, I think it's got something working. Let me do a pass. So working on that with him and her. with Phil. I'm working on another script called Merge. We've got a couple other stuff. Yeah, there's a little bit of writing here and there. I would love to write more, but what I always tell everybody is to finish what you do.
Yeah.
So you can start a bunch of stuff, but you're nothing until something is completed.
And yet you say you're not overwhelmed or overthinking things. See, like just the stuff that you mentioned, maybe that's just my brain. I don't know how other artists are,
Maybe
but I need to probably practice that more, but I feel like I can't let things go sometimes, especially if they're too exciting or too just like takes over your brain and then it's there.
Well, I was listening to a interview with, I think it was Ridley Scott,
Okay.
and they were asking like, don't you write the good ideas down?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, it was like Guillermo del Toro, I think.
Okay.
It's like, no, if it's a good idea, you're gonna keep thinking about it, and the ideas that are okay, those are the ones who are gonna disappear. So you don't need to write things down. And so, if you're not working on that idea for 3 years, you're going to be thinking about it and probably develop it in your head. And I think that's what I've done with some of the comic book or stories that I liked, that I was my ideas, and they've kind of just developed as I was. When you're coloring for like, my comic book, I'm coloring, it's like a page a day to a page every 3 days. So there's a lot of like, just like, thinking, and so you're just thinking about things, and
you're just floating in your head while you're drawing.
So sometimes it's good to let things simmer. Like, yeah, you don't need to work on it right away. If it's that good, it's still gonna be there.
Very good.
Yeah.
When it comes out,
it'll be there in 10 years.
Nice. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guess that's what happened with Once Our Land. Still
Yeah.
there.
It took. Yeah. What I might do with Once Our Land when the second book is done is I write the stories for a bunch of other sequels or prequels, and get somebody else to illustrate it. Yeah. Hopefully, Once Our Land 2 will get enough. Hopefully, it'll do even better than the first one, and get a nice following, and hopefully, I'll be able to get some money to, because I don't want to illustrate anymore Once Our Land. Like, I'm done.
You're done with
But I wouldn't mind designing and building the story, like that universe, because there's so much in it.
That's a cool way to do it.
Yeah.
As you're art directing, and and the world you've set up is I can see that expending so much, just because you get a little, almost like a glimpse of, what the world could be.
Because you read it, right?
Yeah, the first one,
Yeah, and there's like, that's one little town. It's like the whole world is like that.
Yeah.
And the world where those aliens are from, like the creatures, and in my book, the sequel takes place 5 years after the first one.
Okay.
So there's so many stories between that.
That's the awesome part. I like. Yeah, I really like that style where I don't know. There's so many possibilities in how other people are treating, like, their experiences with it, right?
Yeah.
You could just keep going, keep imagining.
Yeah.
When are you? So then the next natural question is, when are you starting your studio?
I've always wanted to do it, and then it's too much work.
And then the crazy part is, another question is, how long do you think? And you're already saying you're doing it. How long do you think until you start doing less, because the job is going to be becoming so much more? You know how you're saying in the beginning you would do the movie cover, you would write the, like, actually I love the fact that you drew the poster for Deadshack.
Thanks.
So sweet. And it's like, I don't know if you must like Drew Struzan and like all the guys who would do movie posters drawn. I hope it more of that is coming back.
Yeah, I'd like, and a lot of 80s kids now are in the positions of being directors and all that, so we're gonna see a lot of that.
Bring it back.
And but even for me to do the poster of my movie was really tough. I asked my producer, I was like, can I do the posters? Like, yeah, but the distributor, if they don't like it, they won't use it. And it's like, well, can I do the trailer? I was like, no, you can do it, but if you don't like it, they won't use it. I was like, well, what if they do like it and they use it? Can I get paid for it? It's like, no. So I basically had to do all that for free.
That's so weird that...
Yeah, and they used my poster on completely everything.
So it sounds... I wasn't expecting the fact that you would be asking someone what to do on your own project, though.
Yeah, and well...
Or how much of a project... So you're saying there's a producer, so meaning you're directing it, but the movie doesn't belong to you, or
Yeah, the movie doesn't belong. I own 40% of the movie, but yeah, there's still a distributor.
So how are
and
those politics? That sounds.
I don't know. I'll probably never see any money from Deadshack.
Really?
Yeah.
And is it
but
just
I-
the
but-
nature of doing the first movie? Is that why?
Maybe, I don't know. There's I was listening to a podcast, and studios actually never say if a movie makes money. So if you ask it's like, oh yeah, Deadshack, like let's say a producer would say, oh yeah, Deadshack made money. It's like, really? So then I could say, bring my lawyers to their lawyers, and then it's like, but he said that, and then he's like, yeah, it made money, but with all the costs, like we actually broke even, but the guy said it made money. So
those
now
dirty
no one
bastards.
says anything,
And is that
and it's just
throughout?
get the lawyers, and yeah, everybody does that. It's
What
just
the
like,
hell is that?
and no one gets paid. And I think that was on that the guy who did Hatchet.
Mhm.
He's got a Keeper of the Crypt podcast. Anyway, it's like he was talking about
Yeah.
that because one of his movies made money, but in the end he didn't see any of the money.
That's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I had no idea that
Yeah.
it's still like that at
And-
that level.
And also same with the TV shows. Like we've had a TV show that was quite successful, and with all the profits that they have from that TV show, they'll go to Cannes, and then they'll make a party,
Yeah.
and they have to pay for the party, and they use your
Your
money.
money.
And then with the rest of that money that we made, they'll use it to do a new pilot for a new animated show that they're working on to sell. So like the money, when you say like you own, like you're gonna get 2% of royalties or whatever,
Yeah.
you're never gonna see it. It's really rare.
This is so insane.
Yeah.
Wow. So how do you make, like, what's then the most ideal way to make money, especially, like, what would you say, especially having seen all these avenues and careers?
The reason I was able to not work at a studio was because I got episodic royalties on my TV shows,
Mhm.
and so that I would get 500, and then the next show I got like 1,000 per episode,
Okay.
and the next show after that I got like $2,000. So that's like if you do 18 episodes in that year,
Mhm.
that's 18 times 2, so I would make $36,000
Okay.
from just giving them notes. And and sometimes I would work hard, give a lot of notes, but some studios, they didn't even listen to what I had said, and they talk shit about me. So I'm not saying who, and I'm not saying every studio did that.
No, you should say who.
Yeah.
Screw those people once again. What the hell?
But yeah, so if people don't want to listen to you, so I just ended up not doing much, and then so I would get $36,000 in a year for doing nothing.
I was not expecting to hear all this. Yeah, I was hoping things were really good, but that sounds really frustrating.
It's just
I mean,
it's a lot of money, and people are older, have different values, and they see things differently. They have a different sense of humor, and when they see somebody younger or somebody with a different approach to things, it's really hard for them to accept that you're right and they're wrong, because there's no right and wrong in art,
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
to
yeah, of
me,
course.
like, it's my show, this is what I want to do with it, and they're like, it's not your show anymore, and we know what's best. And I'd be like, no, you have no idea what's good. And so it's just like battles like that.
It sounds like that's something that would happen in like in a movie or something, where
Mm-hmm.
an aspiring artist sells a
Yeah.
show and then they tell him he doesn't own it anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You've seen so many movies.
I can't
like
believe that happens in real life.
Well, what's
That's
good about Deadshack is that I had a producer who believed in me and
Mhm.
gave us a lot of control and let me make the music, let me be in the editing room. She had my back like from day one, so that was really great.
But then, looking at this and hearing what you're saying, in order to be able to do all these things you're being involved now, you have to be saving a bunch of money in order to. Like,
Yeah, totally. Because when I was working on Deadshack, I didn't really get paid.
See, how is that possible? Once again, you're directing a movie and.
Well, like I said, I deferred my payment.
Yeah, I understand.
And then I also put in
But
50.
still.
Because nobody wanted to make the movie, so I made a fake trailer that cost me $15,000. And my co-writer, I was saying I was going to do that, and they said, "Don't do it. Don't put in your own money." And then I showed them a super rough cut, like from my phone,
Mhm.
like recording Final Cut.
Yeah.
Was doing Final Cut, and then I sent it to them, and Phil's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do the changes on the script like you said, and I'll do the tweaks. And it's like, well, can I also, like, I spent 15 grand, can I get 5 grand? And he's like, okay, I'm gonna send you $5,000. Like, yes.
Oh my God.
So even then, like, all that money that I spent,
Mhm.
that 15 grand and all that time, I'm never getting it back from the movie too.
That's so stupid that you're battling your way through this throughout. I mean, I guess from the beginning then, since since you sold the show.
Even like Humans, we didn't make money for the first like 6 years. We finally started making money in a year and a half ago.
There's no glamour in art. When did Humans start?
2009.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think with the timelines. So
2015 we started making money. 2016 I think we started making money.
but so then the question, as an artist, in order to be able to do all these things you want to do, what is the best artistic avenue to make money in order to be able to do everything else? Like, what is the easiest? Is it comic books that you're doing now, or is it still passion rather? I mean,
comic
I know
is
it's all
also
passion.
really hard.
Well, that's what I
Like, you
heard,
gotta
and the fact that you're doing it is funny.
Yeah.
You're seeing that.
Well, I got lucky because I did a Kickstarter that a bunch of people that didn't know help like did some pledges, and then Scout Comics found me, and they said they want to publish it in worldwide, and then as a normal like Spider-Man Marvel comic, and then they sold out. They did 3,000 copies, sold out, and then nobody could buy it, and it was gaining a lot of value on eBay and all that.
Nice.
So then I sold the remaining 250 hardcover books online in 2 days, and if I had more, I could have probably made so much money.
And is it just a pain to reprint?
It's just I'm not allowed to reprint. Scout Comics has the rights.
Oh, what are all these people doing?
Yeah.
There's like a
well, because I mean,
every-
when I did my comic and I had these 250 books and no one wanted to review, no one was talking about it, nobody was buying. So for me, it's like, okay, I can sit on this forever. And there was no plan on making Wonderland into a movie. Like even my Phil, my partner and Dav, like they weren't that big of a fan. And then when Scout Comics came and made it like the success that it was, it's because of them. And it's and then I think people saw, it's like, oh yeah, maybe this comic has something. And yeah, it was already too late.
Man, this talk is so upsetting now. It seems like it's so.
So the
like
easiest way to be a successful artist, I say, is to get a job.
Okay, but so then actually define that, because first of all, I wanted to ask you, do you feel successful?
No.
So then what is success? Because you're saying to be a...
I'm a mildly successful artist. I always tell everybody, because nothing I've done has been huge, but I haven't. But everything I do like does okay. You know.
I guess once again you're setting you're setting your sights high. And
yeah.
I guess
I mean, a successful artist would be a guy who's like making 200,000 or more a year.
So success is money then.
But also people like, they reach out to them. It's like, oh, I want you to do this. I want you to do that. And for me, like, I have had to create all my jobs since I was a kid. Like, nobody wanted to hire me because I look stoned all the time. Yeah, I don't know. It's you just gotta make your own work. And if you really like something, you'll do it anyways. So I think you should get a job in a field that you like, and go home and work on that passion, and hopefully that passion that you're doing, it feels liberating and not like more work. And I always tell people that if you're an illustrator and you're working as an illustrator and then you want to go home and illustrate more, it's really hard. So find something that isn't like that. So when I would go home from art directing, I would make music or work on music videos, and sometimes I would illustrate, but it'd be just like quick doodles, and I would write instead. I can't really, or I would paint. Painting is different than illustrating, I find. So just do something that's different. Yeah.
That's so heavy. That's some good advice. I think you're super successful. I think you're one of the most successful people I know. You're
shucks. Thanks.
But man, like I was saying at the beginning, everything you make I don't know, maybe it is a storytelling aspect, but everything you make comes out with quality. Like when I saw Deadshack, I would never know this was your first film. Like,
oh, cool.
And it must be all the experience that you described, how everything came together through animation and music came
and
together.
Music videos
but it turned out so freaking awesome. And I mean, clearly, as I'm talking to you, the amount of work that it took to get to that point is. I guess
it was a lot of work. Yeah, and nobody thought the movie was going to be good.
This seems like the story of your life. So when you're saying, saying people didn't want to hire you from young age, what are you saying? Before school, after school?
While I was in school, university and high school, I tried to get work and nobody wanted to hire me. My first job was assistant butcher, and it was summer outside, and as an assistant butcher, you're working in a cooler. So I'm wearing like 2 pairs of pants, like 3 sweaters, and then it's a bunch of old guys, and one of them is like, "Hey, you're Ingrid's son. Yeah, your mom's hot. Like those legs." And then when my mom is like at the grocery store, like buying stuff, it's like, "Oh look, your mom's here. Do you want to say hi?" I was like, "No, I see her all the time." It's like, "Oh, look at those legs." It's like, what the fuck is going on here?
Was that inspiring towards your art? I don't know where you're going with this, but
I was just like shitty jobs, and then they were saying I'm a bad assistant butcher because I was trying to do everything right. They're always talking about how no one's putting the trash right and it's all crumpled up. So I would spend time, like it took like 10 minutes because everyone was just putting their trash whatever, and I would fix it, and then I'd come back, like I did my work, and then that guy was like talking about my mom's legs. He's like, where were you? It's been fucking 15 minutes. It's like, I was like, don't even bother explaining. You're slow. And then the boss comes and talks to me and says that I'm too slow. And then I grabbed the microphone. His name was Luke, the intercom when he left. And I said, "Luke, I am your father." And then I left.
Good.
But it's just like a lot of job like that. Just like people with egos who are older, who, I don't know.
It's like you're fighting your whole life.
Yeah.
So you just gave that advice of if you like art, just get a job in it and go. Would you want to go back to the studio job?
No.
So explain why, because you just told people to go do that.
I think it's good to start. Meet people. It's like when I started in animation, I thought I'd meet a lot of people who wanted to make movies and all that stuff, and it's actually nobody wanted to do that. Everybody asks like, what do you want to be in 5 years now that you're working at a studio? It's like, I want to be assistant. I want to be modeling supervisor. I was like, that's it?
You're like, dream big.
I was like, that's all you want to do? Like, you can probably do that in 4 years from now.
Well, that's because you're a super unique person, probably.
Yeah, I just like, I want to own this studio, and like a studio similar to this.
Is that what you do? Do you do those the 5-year plan, 10-year?
Well, I had a plan. I have plans, and the last plan I had was to do a feature film before I was 40. By the time I'm 40, and I did my first feature when I was 35.
Wow!
So I'm 5 years ahead.
You're beating yourself in every way
of the plan.
Nice. So what's 40 now? What is that going to be? Like 10 feature film movies by 40.
Yeah, no, there's no way that's going to happen. I don't know. I have that was like the end goal for me since I was a kid, because I had no connections in the film world. So I was like, okay, it's going to take this long to go to this and that and this and that, and then maybe by the time I'm 40, hopefully I can make my first feature.
But this is why you're so fascinating, is the ambition. And I think it's like you're saying before, if you think of it, you do it almost. Especially like you're saying, because so many people
to visualize. Visualize what you want, and then you'll know how to do it and how to make it happen.
For people who are storytellers, I guess, would you have any advice for them? Because that's how your passion started, right? It is storytelling. It's just because I'll explain what I'm talking about. Is you're saying in the industry you don't meet a lot of people with ambitions to become directors or whatever that end goal is.
Some of them want to be directors, but they're not really working at it. There's a lot of people who want to be directors, and people were making fun of me at Nerdcore because I wanted to be a director. Like, they would post yellow thumbsticks,
Mhm.
those yellow sticky paper notes,
Yeah.
with like, "Hey, I'm Peter. I want to be a director." Like, people were talking behind my back, and yeah, it's like
Fuck those people.
nobody
again.
wants you to succeed. It's but if you want to be a film director, a storyteller,
They're just
you
jealous.
just gotta write. And I was telling everybody, I have a friend, he wants to be a film director, and I said, make music videos. It's like the easiest thing to do, because you don't have to do sound.
Mhm.
You can grab it's all short form,
Mhm.
and you're gonna learn about cameras and lenses and terms, what works best for you, and none of my friends did that. You know,
Why?
it's yeah, I'd say do a lot of music videos.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, because you do have this crazy ambition and passion, but also it helps that it's paired with the fact that you know what it is you want to do. I'm just trying, as
Mhm.
we're speaking, I'm trying to think of people that I know who are either ambitious or hardworking, and I mean, I guess it's either one or the other, either knowing where you want to go, or there's just like or there's lack of that
Yeah.
persistence.
Yeah, knowing where you want to go definitely helps.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
You're not sure?
I'm trying to. Well, that's why it's good to do a podcast and talk to people. That's something I'm trying to figure out. I think I want to find a marriage of digital art and fine art. I like to do both, but
Okay.
once again, this is why you're very inspiring to me. That you, although not anymore, you don't do paintings. No, but I like to do. I still want to maintain the connection to fine art, and I don't really know why. I like that.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you can hold it. It feels kind of old school.
Yeah.
I feel like creating a body of work. It feels like a big statement, and this is
Mhm.
something you could take you like half a year or more.
Yeah, like comic books. There's a big online comic book like PDF fan base, but most of the books I've sold were hardcover. Like, I
Mhm.
mean, physical.
Mhm.
And I think people always prefer that to also, like, even reading just a book, like a novel.
Mhm.
Most people read it like buy the books.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know why. I find it's more gratifying.
Do you have the
Yeah.
book?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like doing these physical things. I don't know. Yeah, I guess you'll.
Why
have
don't
to
you? You should do a comic book. I don't see why you're not doing that.
And it's as we were speaking of like what is success? Do you see? So is that how you look at these big projects? So either whether it's doing an art show or a comic book, it's like pursuing these things that are larger and take a lot of time. That's what you. Is that something you look up to? I guess, or the fact that you're advising it.
What's the question?
I guess the ambitions and the goals that you're talking, whether it's directing or writing a book, you see those goals are as something you admire, like as these big things that people could do.
Yeah, I think it's. I like to see somebody talk to people who've done comic books or movies, albums.
Mm-hmm.
It's just taking your art to a platform that's to me is more more ambitious and
You can capture a wider audience, I guess.
yeah, it's like, and also I like stories. So, like, a painting is cool, but having multiple images that tell a story and might touch you is even stronger to me. I mean, if you could do that with one painting and make somebody cry, you've nailed it, and maybe you should keep doing that. But I don't know. I watched again Life is Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's
a
movie.
good movie. Oh, like, yeah.
And that ending is like, I think because big spoiler alert, but
You haven't seen it.
Benini he dies at the end.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I saw it, I was like, no, he didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
And my girlfriend, I showed her the movie because she hadn't seen it, and she's like, he's not dead. But
it was such a beautiful artistic almost ending, like the way it was shot. Yeah.
And now that I know he died, I hadn't seen it in 10 years or when it first came out, and it got me.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to like cry like a little baby.
That was a really good movie.
Yeah. And like if I can tell a story like that is that beautiful and that impactful with that a beautiful message like that, and then to do a movie like Star Wars, which is just like so much fun, I don't know if you remember the first time you saw Star Wars, but to me I was just thinking, why aren't movies this fun? Like, why can't? Is it really that hard to make a movie that fun? Because that movie makes it look so easy.
Yeah.
You know.
I understand that. I think one thing I was forgetting, and I'm being reminded about it, is trying to actually either put time into trying to tell a story or evoke an emotion, because you know how you can go kind of one way or the other. You either have you focus on technique and you kind of go do the technical stuff, or you can go the artistic, conceptual, whatever you call it. And so
yeah.
And
well, for me now, I'm past that whole technique things.
And I know it's a growing process, and
because I know you're all about technique, and you're getting. No, you're not.
I am, but I'm only say no because I don't think I'm there yet. But
okay.
Yeah. But I try to. But I also see a lot of artists who are very good at being analytical and breaking down how things are made, where I'm still somewhere in between. Anyways.
I don't think I'm that good. I'm just not that interested in it, and I think I'm good enough with my skill set to tell stories the way I want it. I want to tell them, like being able to draw somebody in a worm's eye view or a bird's eye view, and draw like textures that look like what it's supposed to be. And I'm not. I don't draw from. I don't sketch much anymore. I don't draw from real life. I don't do studies.
Is that because you're so good now?
No, just kind of just not interested. Whenever I'm always working on something. So the only time I do designs is for a new story that I'm working on. It's like, okay, let's build this world. But I'm not gonna. You'll never see me like go to a drawing class.
I guess there's, like you're saying before, because there's no right way to do art. I think, and so many different schools. It's I'm realizing about myself is that it's very easy to get lost in that school of, and it's not a bad thing. It's just
no, it's not a bad thing.
It's just a one way of doing it where
some people want to do that, you know.
Yeah, it's just like when you're asking me what is it in 10 years. I know I want to be making both like digital, traditional, hopefully involved in creating these projects. I don't realize how to do it, but just got to figure out. But I do know that for a while I think I focused just too much on technique, which it's not. I don't think it's bad, and there's a time for it. But anyways,
so do you want to be a director, or do you want to tell stories, or you just want to design? Because when I first met you, you said you want to be an art director.
But I think I need to take time to get there because I want to draw more.
Okay.
And that's.
You're one of the best illustrators I know. Like I don't think you need to draw any better. You're better than maybe 90% of the people I know.
Well, thanks. So, we can talk about it after, but I don't think it's like I don't know myself enough, and I got to figure out what it is I want to do. And I think I notice about artists where it's like you're saying, growing past the idea that you need to be just good at the skill, and then looking beyond that and looking at whether it's storytelling or telling emotion.
Yeah, because I mean,
just now I feel like I've been starting thinking more about that, which finally, I guess. There's
some filmmakers and illustrators that I really like, and their skill set is actually not that good, but I love what they do. Like I think like Evil Dead 2 is a really goofy movie, and it's not really. I love it. Like there's something about it. There's this charm about it that I it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But when you look at it, you're like, that looks like shit. Like that acting is way over the top.
It all fits though, right?
Yeah,
like it's like
it all fits. Yeah, this and some of the movies that are nominated this year for Academy Awards that I think they're really good, but they're like Get Out. I think is an amazing movie. But when I was watching it, I would never think this is like an Oscar contender. Like there's something kind of goofy and about it too,
because
and then not that it's not a Stanley Kubrick movie where everything is like perfect, you know. But now people are talking about it as if it is one of those movies. Like, okay, well maybe things aren't supposed to be perfect, you know. And I think everybody who's scared to take the next step or be serious about something they want, it's like, just remind yourself that some people hate movies that you like and love movies that you hate, and some things are never going to be perfect, and some people think that it's perfect.
And it's very easy to follow convention or feel safe. It's not easy, it just feels safe to kind of walk in footsteps of someone else, where
Yeah, that's
like
true.
stepping out of there
Yeah.
and trying to do something different.
Like I think a lot of like really good writers, like they never think they're that good, and a lot of what they did is like a mistake. And it's like, oh wait, I wrote that. Oh yeah, that sounds really good. It's like also when you draw, it's like you draw a line, and they're like, oh, that line looks really good, and then you start building, and you know it was a mistake. It wasn't really planned to look the way it did.
Some lucky mistakes here and
Yeah.
there, or those are happy
Yeah.
accidents, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that helps. But
And I
then-
mean, they could be mistakes, but it still came from you, and you did it for a reason, you know?
Oh, and that's the kind of, if you apply that to visual art, that's the kind of stuff I like, where it's not perfection, which
Yeah.
perfection is actually, or at least personally, a little
Yeah.
frustrating, especially if you're trying to make something like that. Yeah, but then and if you want to step out of the conventional, how do you ensure that if you're looking for success, especially financial, that's a tough line to follow.
That's tough.
Are you conscious
Yeah.
of that? Do you think about that when you make?
Oh yeah,
projects?
if every time, well, every month I'm thinking, how am I going to make money? I've been lucky throughout the years that every time I didn't have money, all this money came through. Like,
nice.
But before so last year, I had no money, and the comic wasn't selling. My movie wasn't going to get made. This guy's waving at the radio.
If you're out of the radio, if you're wondering, we're looking out in the street in Hastings here. And,
Yeah, we're at
people
Civil
are,
Meets.
people are very kind to say hello. Keep
Yeah.
going.
But I had no money, and then in 1 week, in 2 days, I sold out of my comic book. My feature film got greenlit, and I got the biggest Much Fact award to make 2 music videos in 360 degrees.
Nice, yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I had like, so much, so
Nice.
much money. It's like, okay, I can live for another year.
Are you okay with not just spending it all? Are you living?
Well, I spent all the money I did from Once Our Land. I spent it on making Once Our Land 2.
Oh, so
All the money I made on the movie, I put back into the movie.
you're just fueling that passion.
And then the money I did from the music videos, I think that's what kind of kept me alive.
Yeah. So what's your ideal life then?
My ideal life?
I guess. Yeah.
It
a
would
creative.
It would be to just create IPs, a bunch of like stuff, and get them made, and be a producer and direct some. And
Would you go back to painting if you didn't have to worry about money?
probably not. I would rather like pay somebody like you to draw a comic for me, or a painting, or like Andrew Young. Like,
Yeah.
I think I told him that. It's like, if I had money, I'll get you to do the cover painting of
Nice.
the
Yeah,
movie. I think that's more exciting. And yeah, working with people and hiring your friends and people that you like. It's so weird when you get to work with your idols. Like the first time I used to love that band, Shout Out 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 Out.
Okay.
And first time we did the Humans LP Noontide, we worked with Nick Kozub, who is pretty much Shout Out Out, and get to work with him and spend 2 weeks with him at the studio and just hang out. It's weird.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any more stories like that?
Any more stories of?
Are you meeting all the more, like, I guess as you're touring as well with your band?
Yeah, I don't know, we meet some musicians.
Not all of them are nice.
No, most of them are really nice. I think I'm just usually too drunk to remember.
Having done so many things, and once again,
Yeah.
touched. Actually, before I continue, the way you're speaking, it sounds like you're really you're thinking like an art director. It's like your vision is so much bigger. You know what I mean? Because if you're saying you're going to enjoy more working with other artists to build something.
Right.
Once again, I think that also puts you that's why you're different compared to other people, is because you're not thinking like, oh, I just want to make a painting, but it's like, oh, it'd be cool to get this style and this writing.
Mhm.
And put it, yeah, that's awesome.
Like building like your dream team.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And then if that goes well, then you can let it go and start something new.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping to have like 6 things going at once, and like building them together and then just letting it go.
Nice. But what I was going to ask, yes sir, go ahead.
Yeah, and then it says Peter Rick's.
Peter Rick's in the family.
Yeah.
What's the name going to be of the studio?
The studio?
Yeah.
If I had a studio? Maybe one of my first names for my music was autocoid, which is like it's an alien blood cell that goes. It's an alien blood cell that comes to somewhere in your body and repairs whatever's there, but no one knows how to pronounce it or how to write spelling? It. It's AUTACOID.
No, it's spelled like it's written.
Yeah, well, and nobody knew how
People
to
are silly.
pronounce it, and so that's why I had to change that solo music project that I had for very short length. Short-lived.
What I was going to ask is that, having done so many things, how's your? Is there any major ways that your process has evolved, especially in, well, I guess any art field, but.
I don't know. I think it always starts with the idea and then writing.
And drinking.
Less drinking now. But there's, I drink less now, but when I do drink, I drink harder than ever.
I don't know. With the business.
I think it's maybe worse. Yeah, it's probably worse. It's just like I got to a point where I when I start drinking, I just can't stop. So, I just let's be healthy instead.
Control that, while you're eating all clean and what did you say?
Workout.
Yeah. Nice, yeah. Having also, one thing you touched on is that the fact that at a certain point painting stopped selling, which kind of sucks. And I mean, I haven't been showing art at galleries before the crash, I don't think, so I don't really know what the feeling was like. But having traveled so much, is there any place that stood out to be artistically vibrant and maybe where a life as an artist is a lot easier?
I know when I went to Berlin, there's a lot of artists there, but it kind of felt like Montreal, where they're all poor and it's cheap to live there, so that's why they're living there. I don't know. I think it's hard everywhere. Like when I was serious about doing art shows and all that, like in 2009 or so, I was traveling a lot, and I was going to every art gallery that I could find, and nobody wanted to even see me. And so I just think it's really hard everywhere. I don't even know how to get into selling paintings. Like, do you know how to sell paintings?
I have no idea. But that's at this point I just paint because I want to, and luckily it's
but
like there's that full-time job.
I had to stop doing that because I had so many paintings at home.
Gotta burn them.
You gotta burn them?
I don't know what to do.
You don't want to give them away because then it devalues your work.
Exactly. That's why I had to throw out a bunch.
You did throw out a bunch?
I had to throw.
Or you just paint over it, or
both? Yeah. Sometimes, but that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
It's like, especially when it's your love going into it, right? And
yeah.
then just nobody even cares. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have another art show when Wonderland 2 is coming, because I've been doing a lot of drawings for tattoos that I'm getting, and some for friends, and so I'm gonna do, for the comic book show, I'm gonna have the covers are gonna be hand drawn for the comic.
Awesome. And
then I'm gonna have a bunch of like the tattoo flash drawings I've been doing, but I'm not doing anything serious, like big. Yeah.
And that's why I was saying that it is almost, I don't know if it's antiquated, but, and I understand why people wouldn't buy expensive art, and unless you really love it, things are expensive. And especially the reason why I was asking you about traveling to other places is because Vancouver does seem to be quite expensive, where it's even harder to put on art shows, and even
I find Japan is really hard. When I was there, Takasudo, he got me an art show there at his friend's place called Amp, and we had 5 people come. And there was a show that he had done where it was El Cartel and Amp, and they were broadcasting the show at the same time. So every artist from the show had done 2 pieces, and one of them was shipped in Japan.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
Yeah, and when I went to see, I forget his name, but the guy from the Japanese studio, he's like, wow, there was so many people in Vancouver at your show. I was like, yeah, there was like, it was small, but there was like maybe 50 to 100 people like throughout the night. It's like, wow. It's like, what about you? It's like, don't know, we had maybe like 7 or 8 people, and it makes sense over there because you can't put stuff on the wall. Like if you put a nail on the wall, the landlord is going to freak out. So nobody buys art, and the only art that you would put on your walls would be like Japanese traditional art.
Okay.
But the guy who has the art gallery, he started doing art hotel rooms, and he gets one artist to like do the whole room.
It's finding ways around it, I guess.
Yeah. So and that looks amazing. He's done maybe 4 rooms right now, and it's amazing.
That sounds like a fun thing to do.
Yeah, from the light to the bed to the sheets to the phone to the like the carpet, the wall, like everything is the artist has touched.
Yeah. I guess that's why. Yeah. Maybe that's why they're transitioned to comic books. Doing art shows just doesn't make sense in that way. Yeah. Especially when you're putting so much effort into it. I don't know. Hopefully.
Well, it's like the comic book takes me about a year, to do, or a year and a half. And I can sell as many copies as I want from it, and then somebody could buy it as an IP and make it into a movie, and that will never happen with a painting.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you're trying to discourage me right here. I get it.
I'm gonna get you to do a comic with me. That's my goal. That's why I came here.
That sounds fun. Okay, well, I'm glad you came in. That's good. I wrote I got still plenty of questions to go through. I wrote down one, which I wondered, when was the last time you had your creative block?
Oh, I never have creative blocks.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I don't even know
no such thing. What is that?
Yeah, the thing with whenever you're kind of stuck, you just keep writing or just draw, and then something will come up from it, or talk with somebody. Because I find working with people is great because they might say a word that will just trigger something. But yeah, I mean, I don't have creative blocks. My ideas might be really shitty, but from writing, you just like start developing the world. And sometimes what I do when I'm blocked, I just try to develop some of the characters further, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, so his mom was abusive because when she grew up, there was this guy, and then it's like, oh yeah, that guy, let's bring that guy back. So it's just like developing your work more, and then I think then there's too much to write about, which is like the best, and that's why I want to do Oncerland. I was gonna stop after Oncerland 2, like I didn't want to do that world anymore and focus on their stuff, but now that I've thought about it so much, like working on it, there's just like so many characters and things that we haven't seen yet that I kind of want to develop. So
it's awesome. It's inspiring you, the thing that you've created, to just keep pushing you. Yeah.
Like the way Oncerland 2 ends is like, oh man, they're like it's a full, like I like telling stories that has a beginning, middle, and end. Like I hate like Matrix 2 or
for example,
how when that movie ended, it's not an ending. It's like the end of a season and on TV.
Continued.
It's like, and then this guy shows up. It's like, what? That guy showed up? And then it's like, oh, now I have to wait a whole year. Like I like Indiana Jones, where it ends, and then it's like, man, those characters are so great. I want to hang out with them again. And then there's another movie. So that's how I do my Oncerland stories, or all my comic books, or my movies. But Oncerland 2, there's an ending in it that could be like, it's very gratifying, but there's something that's like, oh wow, I want to keep reading.
Yeah. I guess that even the medium has shifted, right? Like this model that you're talking about. Yeah. And then it's
and making movies like that, I think, is the worst.
You have to play along with the rules, I guess. Yeah. It makes you wonder how much or how little control other people have. Yeah. Especially when you end up working. Do you think you're going to lose a lot of control if you do end up working with a bigger studio, like you're saying? Bigger money? I
don't know. If they pay me enough, I'd be fine with it.
You're okay with letting it go?
I'd be, like, a lot of people say that. It's like, you do one for them and then one for you. Yeah. And I'd be okay with that if I can make the movie I want after. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing some big things.
Some big things.
And can I continue with the question? Do you have doubts about the art or yourself? Yeah.
I have doubts about humanity.
Tell me more.
tell you more. Just greed, religion, pollution.
So when you're not,
It mostly
creating-
comes from greed, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. When you're not creating, your mind is there freaking out.
I try not to I
Yeah.
stop reading the news. I'm like such in a bubble. It's I don't think it's that healthy. It's pretty unhealthy, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I used to read the news a lot and watch it, and this is like 15 years ago. I used to do that. I stopped completely, and
Stepped a long time ago.
yeah, and
Going strong.
now even like the art world, and besides the movie world, I don't really follow anything. Like I think you and Andrew, whenever you guys talk to me about like artists, I have no idea who you're talking.
Oh, have you seen this guy?
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm always producing that I don't have that much time to
But that's what I was saying.
stuff,
Maybe,
yeah.
but it's got to be. Well, there's no better or worse, but it seems better that way if you want to create more. Especially you don't let
Mhm.
that other stuff influence you too.
Yeah,
It's
but it's
probably-
good to have influence. Like,
Depends on how you look at it, I guess.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Either way, it works. Just once again, 'cause
I
it's
mean,
hard.
I think I got to finish what I do and then get some influence. You just
Mm.
got to finish what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah.
actually, that's one thing I'm noticing about like scrolling down the Instagram, like, and like especially I follow a bunch of cool artists, I think,
Yeah.
and that, yeah, it's definitely intimidating. And being the person that I am, where I want to try doing different things,
Mhm.
you see so many kinds of art that, yeah, it can be overwhelming in that way because you want to try everything. Or
Yeah.
at least that's kind of me.
Yeah, but that's good. I mean, you should maybe try and do all that stuff
All
as
at
long
once.
as you finish what you have first.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, I'm gonna have to take all that advice. There's just I think we gotta. Dude, I have so many questions, but too many questions, too little time. I guess let's get to recurring questions. We can. Unfortunately, we have to get out of here. But is there advice you would give your younger self if you could? Like, let's say before you went to post-secondary. Is it too many advice or too little?
It'd probably be like girl advice. That's something I wouldn't really talk about on air. Just like, you know, appreciating what you have and be like, I don't think I was ever a bad boyfriend, but just like, no, like I was really shy. So when I was younger, it's like, you don't need to be shy. Like, no one is smart.
Comes with creativity.
Yeah,
Those
just
two
like,
things.
I don't know that guy. This guy was waving out the window.
Yeah.
I waved back, but I didn't know who he was. I don't think he knew who we were. But yeah, just like don't be scared. I don't know if I should say this, but the first time I did acid, that was I think I stopped being shy after that.
So it helped.
But being less self-conscious. I don't know what it just like opens up a part of your brain. And I've heard that from a couple people that it just like really changed their lives.
You're giving advice.
Yeah, just kids do drugs,
Yeah.
and if you can't afford them, become famous and people give them to you.
Nice. Is that what you're doing when you're traveling? You're saying no constantly?
Yeah, I'm saying no all the
Yeah.
time. What else? I think that's it.
No, that's pretty good. That was very
Yeah.
useful. This must be a terrible question for you. Do you see yourself not creating art in any? Do
No,
you see,
I don't think I can
No?
never do that.
It wouldn't survive. Do you just go crazy? What would happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just being creative. Hopefully, everything that I do, I think anything you do creative is the equivalent of that is art.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
anything creative is art. So I always have to create. And when I
Yeah.
was a kid, I wanted to be an inventor, not knowing that I just wanted to create.
Well,
And I
yeah.
actually don't want to be an inventor because I don't want to know how to spend my whole life on doing one thing, making it work. I
Yeah.
want to.
Isn't that crazy? And
show
sometimes you don't even make it work throughout your entire life.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. And most things happen by mistake.
Mm.
Yeah,
That's why it's fun to be a creative, I guess.
yeah.
Man, you're too cool, making all the good things. I'm curious.
Too nice.
I'm very curious about the idea you're writing about your family and about your grandmother. I think the emotional impact there, I imagine, is going to be
Yeah,
pretty incredible.
It's such a crazy story. The reason I really want to do it is because it's like my grandmother went through 30 years of hell, losing the love of her life, which is my real grandfather, having a kid, having 7 kids. My dad was the third one, who his real dad he had never met before until a certain point in the story that hopefully when you see the movie maybe it's going to be in there.
Hopefully, yeah.
But he moved to Africa and she wanted to be with him, and she was stuck with this guy who was an asshole and a drunk, and you can't leave the country unless you have the approval of the fathers.
Wow.
of the other kids.
Yeah.
And so he didn't want to give it to her. He didn't want her to be satisfied and be happy. He's like, no, you're staying with me and you're gonna be miserable. And then so she could never be with the love of her life, my real grandfather. And then she eventually met this rich guy who was a fucking man, and he fell in love apparently with my grandmother, and then he moved into the house and kicked the other guy out of the house. But my grandmother's sister, he said it really well. It's like a saying, I don't know how to say it, but it goes something like you're substituting a shit with a turd. Saying like that guy is also a piece of shit.
He was not a savior.
Yeah, and she's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about, and ended up that he was way worse, and he would like torture the family. And but what's beautiful about the story is after 30 years of like hell, she came out kind of successful and met this guy who I've always known as my grandfather, they would dance together and travel the world, and it was really nice. And after 20 years of that, she said, when she was like 60 or something like that, she's like, that's when my life kind of ended. She's 89 now, and she's like, there's not much to tell, but at least it's like, at least she's
meaning
happy.
Everything became good.
And
happy
now she can't dance anymore. She loved to dance, but so her joy is like to see her family, and and I just learned about a lot of this story like in the last 10 years, and I really I thought it was a beautiful message to tell people like to not give up.
No, that's better than a movie. You know what I mean? Like, I guess how real life usually can be. And
it's so funny how I love biopics, and the ones that are really well done. It's like, wow, it's like so well developed. Like every character feels real, because
it's almost like it happened.
Like City of God, like.
Oh yeah.
They go in deep into so many characters, and it's so good. Like
that's a really good one. Yeah. But I mean,
that's also a movie about like don't give up.
Is it the same director as Life is Beautiful? Or
no. Life is Beautiful is Fanili, and the guy who did anyway.
I think I may have watched those back to back.
Life is Beautiful is Italian, the other one's Brazilian.
Yeah.
Did you ever see City of Men, the TV show? And then they did a movie.
I thought it was a movie, yeah. Right?
The movie is bad unless you've seen all the TV shows, all the episodes of the TV show, because it's about the guy who plays Little Dice and his best friend.
Okay.
They film them in an episode every year for like 6 or 7 years. So you see them grow up.
That's awesome.
Like from age 8 all the way to 17.
Yeah.
And then the movie is when they're 18.
Wow.
And I saw the movie first. I was like, this is so boring. And then I watched the show. I was like, oh, that movie is so good.
Yeah. No, I really loved City of God. That was a cool one. Man, if you do end up making that movie, don't let them change you. Don't let them change the story. Sounds already too good. Because they're going to be, let's throw another person in here. But I'm very excited. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I think we'll have to...
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That you... blew my mind. Hopefully everyone else is. I think there's lots to learn, and
thanks.
Can't wait to. I'm going to keep following your work. Is there a place you want people to follow you?
You can go on peterricq.com. That's PETERRICQ.com. Instagram, it's prick, PRICQ. And then what else? You can watch Deadshack on iTunes if you're
Go
in the
do it.
States. You can watch it on Shudder. If you're in the UK, it's on Shudder. I think that's it. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, well, go support
Yeah.
this guy because he doesn't like promoting himself. So go do it. All right. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this. I definitely did. Looking forward to doing more and having more conversations. Thanks for listening. If you want to learn more about Creative Theory Podcast, find us on Instagram or Facebook under that name. Otherwise, time to go home, get to work, make some more art. Thanks for listening. Bye, people.
Goodbye.